Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. So, continuing our discussion on Śrī Īśopaniṣad, we will now discuss mantra 6. Yastu sarvani bhutanya atmanya eva nupashyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate. He who systematically sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord, who sees all living entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything or any being. So in the previous two verses, there was a description of the Lord, the attributes of the Lord, seemingly contradictory terms. Now the focus is on the devotees. Right? Initially the description was on the seen, now on the seer. So the focus is on the vision and the conduct of the devotees. So summary explanation of the verse that after describing the Lord, the method of worshipping him is described, right? And three aspects of the vision of such a person is given in the verse. That sarvani bhutani atmani, that he sees everyone in relation to the Supreme Lord. Right? So he sees everybody as a spirit soul, including himself. Right? This is the Atma vision. And then Sarvabhuteshu Atmanam, he sees the Supreme Lord in everyone. Right? So this is the Paramatma vision. He sees the Lord as the Paramatma residing in everyone. And the third is Anupashyati, that he only sees through the eyes of the scriptures and the acharyas. Right? So we'll see why that Anupashyati is actually one of the most important words in this mantra. And then mantra says, what is the result of this? Sarvani bhutani atmani sarvabhuteshu atmanam is na viju gupsate. That as a result of this, he does not hate anything or anyone. Anything means any situation or any circumstance. Anyone means any person. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport covers 4 topics. He first talks about the different grades of devotees, the Kanishta, Madhyam and Uttam Adhikari. And then he talks about real and false oneness. So he talks about how the notion of bodily oneness is false. Then he talks about the importance of seeing as per the Shastras, following the Acharyas. Essentially this is explanation of Anupashyati. Then he talks about the Shastras having one message. And finally talks about the liberated personal vision is truly beneficial. So some discussion on Anupashyati. So Pashyati means to see and Anu means to follow. So literally what it means that you see following the footsteps of the Acharyas. So see means Chakshu Shastra, which means that you see through the eyes of the scriptures following the footsteps of the Acharyas. Now one might say that if you are seeing through the eyes of the Vedas, why do you need to follow the footsteps of the Acharyas? Because the Vedas themselves are authoritative. And the Acharyas themselves are following the Vedas. So in order to understand that, let's look at this verse from Manu Samhita, which says that dharma when destroyed, destroys. And dharma when protected, protects. Therefore, dharma should not be violated, lest the violated dharma destroys us. It is making this statement that one should protect the dharma, stating both the positive and the negative. But the problem here is that while the statement here is simple, follow the principle of dharma, practically following the principles of dharma is difficult. So in the Ajamel pastime in 1619, Yamraj says that religious principles enacted by the personality of Godhead, but they are difficult to understand by those who are embodied, those who are in the modes. So yes, one needs to follow the principles of dharma, which is one needs to follow the Chakshu Shastra. But that itself is difficult. How to solve that difficulty? So therefore the second recommendation, Anu, to follow is given. Śrī Yudhishthira Maharaj in Mahabharata says that the principles of dharma is following the footsteps of the Mahajans. Mahajana yena yatasu pante. Right? So because the Mahajans have understood the Vedas perfectly, and because they in their own life reflect the principles of the Vedas, whereas we may not be able to understand the principles of the Vedas, then we follow the footsteps of the Mahajans. So then one may ask the other question, then why not just follow the Mahajans? Why even bother about studying the Vedas? Then the question comes that, how do you know the person is a Mahajan? So only when the person is reflecting the principles of the Vedas can one ascertain that this person is an exalted personality. So this way there is a two-way check. Right? The Vedas give us an understanding of who the exalted personalities is, and the exalted personalities in their lives they embody the principles of the Vedas. So that is why anupashyati. One sees through Chakshu Shastra and one follows the exalted personalities. So building a little bit on the fact that it is difficult to follow the principles of the Vedas, one might say that if the purpose of the Vedas is to guide the people, why are they confusing? Right? So the Vedas are Ved Ekavakya. The Vedas, the message in the Veda is not confusing. There is only one message in the Vedas, Krishnastu Bhagwan Swayam. Right? But because people with different propensities approach the Vedas present this message in different ways. It is revealed according to the level of advancement of the person who is approaching it. Right? So with the Ekavakya, one message, but presented Bahushaka, presented in many ways. One who is materialistic will not appreciate the Sarv Dharma Pratyajya Mahamekam Sharanam Braj. Right? They will appreciate the more materialistic aspect of the Karma Kanda aspects of the Vedas. But still it's Ekavakya. Because even the Karma Kanda is based on the supremacy of Krishna. Right? So because of this multi-level messaging, that for the karmis the Vedas present the message in one way, for the jnanis in a different way, for the bhaktas in a different way, for the uninformed they may find these messages as contradictory, but actually they are not contradictory, they are complementary. They support one another. And because there are so many nuances in this, one needs the guidance of a guru to understand. So the guru understands the level of the disciple and will interpret the appropriate parts of the Vedas to them. And there's that very popular example of two disciples of Prabhupada getting sannyas. And they came to Prabhupada to take instructions, and to one Prabhupada said that you don't live at one place, you travel and preach. And to the other he said, you just live at one place. You stay in the temple and worship the deity. And Prabhupada's servant said, they're both sannyasis. Why are you giving them contradictory results, instructions? He said, because the propensity of one is that the person is a preacher. He likes to travel, deal with people. And that's the best way that he can make spiritual advancement. And the other is more, he likes to stay, worship deities, is more homebody. So that's the best way for him to make spiritual advancement. So Veda ek vakya. So ultimately Prabhupada is guiding both of them to the path of spiritual advancement. But because he's aware of the subtle nuances, he's giving appropriate instructions. Śrīla Prabhupada translates Anupashati as following the parampara. So when you follow somebody, then the person needs to be following somebody. So ultimately, that unbroken chain to Krishna needs to be established. So the statement that seeing is believing is a permanent showstopper, both intellectually and behaviorally, because it limits one's scope of experiences. So what does equality of vision mean, right? So two kinds of equality is mentioned here. There's Sarvani Bhutani Atmani, that he sees everybody in relation to the Supreme Lord, and Sarva Bhuteshu Atmana, that he sees the Supreme Lord in anyone. Right? And similar message is given in 629, that true yogi sees everything in me and me in everyone. Right? So the word tu indicates the special glory of one who knows the Brahman. And whatever is situated in the earth is actually situated in the Paramatma. So that is the significance of the word eva. This is some of the commentary by the acharyas. So Sarvani Bhutani Atmani is the Brahman vision. The Brahman vision means seeing the spirit soul as separate from the body, right? And Sarva Bhuteshu Atmanam is the Paramatma vision, which is seeing the Lord in everybody. So the result of Atma realization is the person becomes equipoised. So when one sees everything as spirit and not matter, the duality of the matter does not bewilder the person anymore. So this is the result of the Sarvani Bhutani Atmani. So the person becomes Sthit Pragya. Sthit Pragya means transcendently situated. Why? Because he gives up all varieties of desires for sense gratification, right? Which means that he does not see any value in exploiting matter, because he is seeing the spirit everywhere. Then his mind becomes steady, sthita di. Then pragya pratishtha, he is fixed in consciousness, because this volatility is a symptom of matter. Pragya pratishtha, same thing, that he is fixed in intelligent. And then the Sarva Bhuteshu Atmanam is the Paramatma vision, wherein the person does not make a distinction on the basis of the material body of the other. Right? So there's a slight difference between the two visions. Atma vision is that of neutrality. That because the person does not see matter but sees spirit, and because he sees the same spirit everywhere, he has the same vision, samadrishti. Right? Paramatma vision is that of affection. Because when one sees that my worshipable Lord, Sarvabhuteshu Atmana, that particular Lord that I worship is also present in the body of the Brahmana Havi Gastini, that in the body of a Brahman, the body of a cow, and the body of a Chandal, right? So then he goes beyond the Brahman vision. The Brahman vision was equality. even in that equality there is some discrimination, because the person in Brahman vision, when he sees the soul occupying the body of a Chandal, while he sees the presence of the soul, he also sees the fact that the soul must have performed sinful activities to get the body of a Chandal. So there is some level of discrimination. But when in the Paramatma vision, when he sees the soul in the body of a Chandal, right next to the soul he sees the Paramatma. And then he says that when my worshipable Lord is sitting over there, what does it matter if it's the body of a Chandal or a Brahman? My worshipable Lord is sitting over there. Right? So then they're not even able to discriminate based on whether the body is advanced or a fallen body. So the result of these two, Sarvabhutani Atmani and Sarvabhuteshu Atmanam, is the person becomes equipoised in his own dealing, and he develops equal vision towards everyone. Right? So he sees everyone in relationship to the Lord, which means he sees everyone as a spirit soul, and he sees the Lord as Paramatma in everyone. So we discussed that Sarvani Bhutani Atmana makes the person equipoised, and Sarvabhuteshu Atmani gives the person, so the first makes the person materially detached, and the second makes the person spiritually attached. So symptoms of equal vision. So one may say that if making advancement is developing an equal vision, then if I make more advancement, then I should also have an equal vision towards the Lord and the Jivas. So this is basically extrapolating in error, saying that equal vision you're saying is a sign of advancement. And fine, I reached the equal vision of the Jivas, but now I want to advance more. So I should have the equal vision between the Jiva and the Lord. So the mantra protects against that by making a distinction between the Atma and the Paramatma. Right? So the mantra specifically says that the person sees the Atma in relationship with the Paramatma. Right? So this is the Sarvabhuteshu Atmanam. Right? So when you see two things in a relationship, then the two things have to be distinct. One cannot have a relationship with one's own self. So when the mantra says that such a person sees the Atma in relationship to the Paramatma, then what does it mean? That the Atma and the Paramatma are distinct. Which means that you cannot extend this equal vision to the Atma and the Paramatma, because they are two distinct entities. So a bodily oneness is false. Like one should not apply this equal vision to everybody's body, because there is no scriptural basis with it. Then oneness with God is false because of this reason. That there is a relationship, so there cannot be oneness. Right? But what is accepted is that there is bodily diversity but spiritual unity. There are many bodies, but they have within them the same spiritual, the soul has the same spiritual nature. For example, in Vanaprastha, the foundation of Vanaprastha is that spiritually everyone is equal, but materially they are different. That Vanaprastha is not meant to criticize or praise someone, but it makes this distinction. That because materially they are different, they will occupy different varnas and ashramas, right? And because, so I didn't mean vanaprasthi, I meant varnashram over here. So in varnashram, the point is made that everyone has a right to advance, which means everyone has the same spiritual quality. Whether the person is a grahastha or a sannyasi, whether the person is a brahman or a shudra. That's the whole basis of vanaprastha, varnashram. But it also recognizes material diversity, that the modes will act differently. Yeah. So the equalities with respect to people and circumstances. Equality in the vision of people and equipoised in all circumstances. What is the result of it? Na vijugupsate. Such a person does not hate anyone or anything. So he does not hate anyone because there is equality in vision to people, because they see the Paramatma sitting there. And he does not hate anything, which means any circumstances, because he is equipoised, because he sees everything in relationship to the Lord. So, symptoms of various vision. A materialist is attached to matter and detached to Krishna. That is his vision. That when they say matter, they get attached to it. When they see Krishna, they are detached to it. A Mayavadi is detached from matter and detached from Krishna. So that's their aspiration. That this matter is an illusion and the personality of Godhead is an illusion. Netine, everything is an illusion. The Sahitya, they are attached to both matter and Krishna. Right? So they are attached to matter, so they have lust and anger and envy. And they're also attached to spiritual practices. So that's how they combine these two and create something that is not recommended in the scriptures. They use under the guise of their spiritual attachment, they manifest their material attachment. They will dance with the gopis or the so-called gopis, but underneath that they're manifesting their lust. And the devotees are detached from matter but attached from Krishna. Right? So that is the vision of the devotees. So detached from matter means that they don't see matter as something that they have to exploit for their own use. They will happily exploit it for Krishna's use, but not for their own use. So Srila Prabhupada talks about the 3 stages of perceptions, advancement of the devotee, the Kanishtadhikari, Madhyamadhikari, Uttamadhikari, and then he talks about 4th, which are the false philanthropists, the imitators, right? So summary is, and we'll talk a little bit about each of these 3. Kanishtadhikari is weak knowledge and weak faith. The Madhyamadhikari has weak knowledge and strong faith. Uttamadhikari has strong knowledge and strong faith. So this we studied also in the Nectar of Devotion. Right? So now we can see how the books are relating to one another. So in Bhagavad Gita, the philosophical concept, the tattva, was given to us. In the Nectar of Devotion, then based on this tattva, what is the conception that one develops? That is spoken about. Bhagavad Gita talks about the philosophical concepts, where Krishna talks about how he relates to material matter, how he is the source of the inspiration, cause of the devas. So he talks about all this concept. In the Nectar of Devotion, the conception of those who understand this concept is developed. In the Īśopaniṣad, the behavior of those who have this conception is noted. Right? And in the Nectar of Instruction, it is mentioned that based on their behavior and conception, how should they be treated or how they should behave. And the Srimad Bhagavatam gives examples of how people behave and how they should be treated based on these preceding aspects. So we'll talk about the Kanishtadhikari. So like we mentioned, they have weak knowledge and weak faith. So some of their behavior is they will go to a place of worship like a temple, church or mosque. They see the Lord at the place of worship and nowhere else. So if they go to the temple, there's a deity over there. For them, that's the only presence of the Lord. Outside the temple, there is no Lord. And they worship according to the scriptural injunctions. So because they have weak faith, so they don't have spontaneous affection for the Lord, but they still have the desire to worship. So based on the scriptural injunctions, they will follow. So this is the sadhana Vaidhi bhaktas. They cannot distinguish between the different grades of devotees. Right? So the Kanishthadikari, whether they are in the presence of an advanced devotee or a neophyte devotee, they will not be able to make a distinction. Again, because of their weak knowledge. So they may say symptoms, but they are not able to understand where those symptoms are coming. And this is the most dangerous aspect because of this, they may commit offenses against advanced devotees, or they may take shelter of neophyte devotees. Both of them are dangerous aspects. Quarrelsome. Why are they quarrelsome? Because they're ritualistic. So the nature of ritualistic is that you get attached to a detail. That I need to offer the incense in a particular order. Somebody else comes and offers the incense in a different order, they get upset about it. Right? So because that's what they're attached to. They're attached to the rituals. As somebody was humorously saying, neophyte means new fight. That everything they have a new fight based on something. So they are also called prakrit bhaktas because they have still material hankerings. So they are trying to transcend. They're devotees, but they're suppressed, but they are still governed by the more egoistical and proud sudurachar. Sometimes they behave badly because of their material contamination. And they also fall down easily because their knowledge and faith are both weak. So somebody comes and tells them something that shakes their faith. Like sometimes their followers, the people who are following ISKCON, and then somebody comes to them and saying, I went to the other temple in ISKCON and there I saw this was happening. And the person says, oh my God, how could this happen? I'm not going to the temple anymore. Because they have weak faith. Or somebody might come and give them a different philosophy. Oh, you say there is Krishna, but actually this great Acharya said that Krishna is essentially a temporary manifestation of the Absolute. And they basically then start following that. So they get easily swayed. Madhyamadikari, they have strong faith and weak knowledge. So weak knowledge in the sense that their knowledge has advanced to the point that they can convince themselves, but not to the point where they can defend against others. But they're advanced, like Kanishta is not able to distinguish between devotees. They are able to distinguish between four categories. They're able to distinguish between the Supreme Lord, and they attempt to love the Lord. Then they're able to identify the devotees and they make friends with the devotees. They identify the innocents who do not have a knowledge about the Lord, but they're innocent about it. So they preach to them and they try to awaken the love. They're also able to identify the atheists who have no faith in the Lord, and they avoid them. So this is a good position, since with discrimination, such a person can seek out proper association. Right? So this is also the platform for preachers, because they are able to make this distinction between the devotees, the innocent, and the atheists. Right? So so I remember in the Rath Yatra, we used to have bookstalls where we would distribute books, and all kinds of people would come. And sometimes the people would come and they would ask all kinds of questions. So your Krishna has some of them were Indians, some of them were non-Indians, but they would ask all kinds of questions that your Krishna has many girlfriends, or isn't your Krishna with a cow, etc. And then initially we would try to preach to them saying, no, Bhagavad Gita says this, or everything in the spiritual world is sentient, etc. But then a senior devotee told us, don't waste your time with them. Right? Because you cannot preach to everyone. Those who are atheists, they're there to waste your time. They're person who are envious, they have no interest in what you're going to tell them. They're just to waste your time. And then we observe that person in action. When somebody would come and talk like that, would give very short replies. He says, well, it's unfortunate you think like that. Please move on. But rather they would focus on those who are innocent. And they may be also asking similar questions, but they would be asking from a mode of natural inquisitiveness, or actually trying to clarify doubts. Right? So that's the mood of the preachers. They're able to make the distinction between the innocent and the atheist. They're able to make the distinction that this person is a devotee and seek out the association. So one becomes Madhyam by sadhana, but the next stage Uttam is actually by the mercy of the Lord. So Uttamadhikari is there. They have strong faith and knowledge. So not only the knowledge is sufficient to convince them, they can also defend against others. But they are at the level where they do not make any distinction. The Kanishtadhikaris, they are unable to make a distinction. The Uttamadhikari, they deliberately do not make any distinction because they see everybody as the part and parcel of the Lord. Right? So they simply say that if one has a certain situation or a body, it's just the misuse of the free will. But the soul is pure. Right? So because of this vision, they find it very difficult to preach. Because ultimately, the Uttamadhikari develops a lot of humility also. Right? So because of that humility, they also find it difficult to preach. Also, when they see a person, whether the person is atheist or impersonalist or whatever, they see them all, that these are all pure spirit souls and they're misusing their free will, but they're all pure spirit souls. So that's why it is said that Uttamadhikaris, they come down to the platform of Madhyamadhikaris to preach. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that one who is Brahmabhuta, who is already at the stage of Brahmabhuta, becomes a Uttamadhikari. So the Uttamadhikari is already at a liberated platform. Right? Some anecdotal stories of Srila Prabhupada that Srila Prabhupada in his room, once he saw a dead insect, so he calls a disciple to take away that insect. And then he says, you chant before you throw it away. Right? Another time, Prabhupada was in his room and there was a disciple outside and he heard Prabhupada preaching very strongly. So he was curious, he went inside and then he noticed there was a mouse and Prabhupada was preaching to the mouse. And to some extent, that's the vision of the Uttamadhikari. That the soul within the mouse is the pure soul. Fact that he has a mouse body is misuse of his free will. Right? So at times Prabhupada would display this mood of Uttamadhikari. But in order to preach to the general populace, he would come to the platform of being a Madhyamadhikari. And then Prabhupada talks about the fourth kind, which are outside these three, which are pretenders. And the pretenders may imitate the Uttamadhikaris. Right? So they may appear to be very advanced devotees. Externally, they may flaunt a sense of oneness or fellowship, like this equality of vision, and everybody is my friend. But their behavior is on a bodily platform, which means that they get perturbed by the distinctions, different kinds of body, different kinds of situations, because they lack that. So the equality needs to be supported by the vision, the anupashyati that is talked about, right? Sometimes they become just complete fakes, right? So they become spiritual leaders, but essentially they're just doing it externally, or fake philanthropists, right? they'll come up and make a lot of these statements. So the behavior and the mood does not resonate. This is important. Right? So their mood might be, mood might be that, oh, everybody is my brother, everybody is worthy of my love. But if somebody comes and throws a stone at them, they will say that they will develop envy towards that person. So what's the conclusion? That Prabhupada would say that universal brotherhood is only possible when there is acknowledgement of a single father. So this is a more contemporary way of saying this vision of seeing everybody in relationship to Krishna and seeing Krishna in everyone. Right? So that is the notion that can actually result in universal brotherhood. The vision of a Mahabhagavat is always in relationship to the Spirit Lord. They are equipoised because they are seeing the Atma in themselves, and they do not discriminate on the Atma form. Right? So the two visions are described: the Atma vision, that they are equipoised, and the Paramatma vision, where they are favorable to everyone. Atma vision, material detachment; Paramatma vision, spiritual attachment. And all this is possible only by following the acharyas who follow the scriptures. This brings us to the end of this discussion. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.